from Washington, this is VOA News. U.S. Secretary of State Kerry is to join discussions on Iran's nuclear program. And now the reports are that over 2.5 million have been reached with relief in the Philippines. I'm Vincent Bruce, reporting from Washington. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is now heading to Geneva to join meetings seeking to close gaps on a proposed interim deal that would curb Tehran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. One of the issues under discussion is Iran's insistence that it retain the right to enrich uranium, a process that yields materials both for bombs and civil nuclear power generation. VOA's State Department correspondent Scott Stearns has more as Kerry heads to Geneva.
This is a first step to suspend Iran's nuclear program for perhaps 6 months, to give time for a longer-term agreement to settle questions of enrichment, to settle questions of the plutonium reactor, to settle questions of IAEA inspection, and on the Iranian side, to settle questions of the sanctions against Iranian oil exports and some of the financial restrictions that it's facing.
VOA's Scott Stearns. Iran and 6 world powers entered a crucial third day of talks Friday in Geneva. The senior United Nations relief coordinator, Valerie Amos, says that 2 weeks after Typhoon Haiyan struck the Philippines, 2.5 million people have been reached with basic food assistance, and clean water is available to everyone in Tacloban City. Amos told reporters in New York much more needs to be done, however. She reports 72 local and 59 foreign medical teams are providing emergency treatment in the affected areas, and that a vaccination campaign to immunize 500,000 children under 5 against measles and polio will begin on Monday. Amos said 40% of her original appeal for $301 million for the Philippines has been funded so far. More details at voanews.com. The United States paused to mark the 50th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on Friday with memorial ceremonies and moments of silence. In Dallas, Texas, the southwestern city where Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, church bells chimed as several thousand people observed the solemnity of the exact moment he was shot on Dealey Plaza. Pulitzer Prize-winning historian David McCullough read from some of Mr. Kennedy's speeches, including one where he laid out the role of the United States in world affairs.
We sometimes chafe at the burden of our obligations, the complexity of our decisions, the agony of our choices. But there is no comfort or security in evasion, no solution in abdications, no relief in irresponsibility.
Once again, more details at voanews.com. A dispute over timing is threatening to derail plans for a continued U.S. troop presence in Afghanistan, where a National Assembly of tribal, community, and elected leaders is meeting to discuss a new security pact. A spokesman for President Hamid Karzai insisted that the pact will be signed only after national elections scheduled for April, when Afghans will choose a new president. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki, speaking with VOA's Afghan service Friday, said an agreement needs to be signed this year, a timetable already agreed upon.
This was a timeline that was agreed to by both sides. It's a plan that we've been working on both sides. We've been in touch on the ground. There have been, even as we look to broadly Afghan leadership, there have been many Afghan presidential candidates who have come out publicly in support of the BSA. So there should be no secret and no surprise. We have made clear what our desire is in terms of the timeline, but that's been our committed timeline for some time now.
The United States says North Korea has acknowledged that it is holding another American citizen. State Department spokeswoman Jen Psaki said Friday North Korea told the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang about the detention of the man who has not been identified. The Swedish embassy represents U.S. interests in the country because Washington and Pyongyang have no diplomatic ties. At least 35 people have been killed in the explosion of an oil pipeline in eastern China. About 165 others were injured. Authorities in Latvia say the death toll from the collapse of a supermarket's roof has climbed to 47, including 3 firefighters. Authorities say 35 people were injured. Visit us at voanews.com 24 hours a day for all of the latest. I'm Vincent Bruce, VOA News, reporting from Washington.